Oh, St. Catherine's, you are beautiful. And I am so glad to be in the midst of you. It is good to be here. Of course, it's now abundantly clear that I did not check my liturgical calendar before I picked my start date. Who would actually pick Trinity Sunday for the first day? So hang with me, okay? The Trinity, while it's one of the key doctrines of our church, it's also one of the most confusing. St. Augustine once said, if you don't believe in the Trinity, you'll lose your soul, but if you try to understand it, you'll lose your mind. Well, I'm not sure I agree with Augustine on that first part. I do think we spend a lot of time trying to understand that which is paradox. How can something be 3 in 1 and 1 in 3? How can we explain something that is veiled in mystery? For God is God, and we are human, and our eyes are simply not able to see the fullness of God. The Trinity, I think, gives us a lens, trying to help us comprehend, describing God in our language with images we know and recognize. But I wonder if our attempts don't fall a bit short. We humans simply don't have the capacity to fully illuminate the depth and breadth of God. And yet we get glimpses. Take that lesson from Genesis, beautifully read, by the way. I wonder what image or what idea captured your imagination in that story. I found myself wondering why. Why did God pick that very moment to begin to create this place, this fragile earth, our island home? God is meticulous in the creating, the order that is created out of chaos, each new being, sun, moon, stars, grass, sea monsters, donkeys, birds, each one, God singing into being. So why did God pick that moment? I suspect the answer has to do with the same mystery that the Trinity seeks to reveal. God chose us. God chose us in that moment in time, in that spark of creation. God chose us to be in relationship with God's self. For God could have created anything, any image to reflect God's self, but God created this earth and her creatures and then made us, male and female, in God's image. There is relationship flowing through it all, through the rivers and trees, through singing birds and lowing cattle, through those stars that shine so brightly in the sky, one that will someday shine with such brightness that it will show us the way to a new home and a new revelation, a new understanding of God. But I get ahead of myself. God sang and danced a whole new creation into being, and in that creation, God not only creates us, but God also seeks us. God seeks community, friendship, and companionship with human beings in creation and invites us to do the same. Frederick Buechner, who you will come to learn is one of my heroes, Frederick Buechner writes, "The Trinity is a way of saying something about God and God's inner nature. That is, God does not need the creation in order to have something to love, because within God's being, love happens. Creation grows out of God's love. So when we say God is love, it's not just a descriptor, it's a verb, it's an action. The nature, the action, the being of God is love, which means we are created in the image and likeness of God. So we are also hardwired to be love, to have love happen within our being. All creation sings of God's love. We sing of God's love." Jesus gives us a glimpse of that Trinity too. It is in that Trinitarian formula, the same one we use at baptism, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It is with these words that Jesus calls the disciples, calls us to go out into the world in mission. And what is going out into the world bearing Christ's name but relationship? Our mission, our work is to bring the hope and love of Christ into view for all who would stop and see. I am convinced that the only way this can be done is through relationship. One of the profound ways I've seen this done is at events like Happening. Those of you who've been to New Beginnings or Happening or Cursillo, think about that transformational experience. It is rooted deeply in the power of relationship, of walking together by a common bond of love. So how then do we talk about, how do we wonder about the Trinity? One of my favorite, if not my favorite, icons of all time is called the Holy Trinity. In it, there are three figures that sit around a table, and there's a cup or a chalice in the center of the table. It recalls that moment in Genesis where three visitors came to Abraham and Sarah by the oaks of Mamre. Abraham and Sarah rush to show hospitality, and then they learn of that unbelievable miracle that Sarah is to have a child in her old age. Some say those images in the icon are angels. Others say it is the Holy Trinity itself. Either way, it is an invitation into something beyond ourselves. For if you sit with that icon long enough, you will realize that there's another place at the table waiting for you. It is an invitation into community, into relationship. At its heart, that is what the Trinity offers us, an invitation into the heart of God. The Trinity points to the truth that God is here. Here in creation, here in mission, here in our welcome. God is alive and at work, moving and dancing in our world. And that we are always, always invited to partner in this work. In the days since I received the call to be your rector, people have asked me a lot of questions about you. And I've given a lot of different answers about St. Catherine's, but the story I keep coming back to is one that was told me early in the search process, but it came up again and again in different ways. It has to do with the oak tree that once stood outside the front doors. That oak tree was life and comfort and shade. It was a place of refreshment. It was home. Or that's what I've been told. Do y'all agree? And then it was gone. Some of the wood was harvested, repurposed to live on in a new way. I'm one of the recipients of one of Alan's Happening crosses that's made out of that oak. But still, it was gone, and there was loss. And you had to decide what was next. Yet with the oak gone, there was a new view of the world. You can see out a little bit further, and people can see you. People can see St. Catherine's in this space a little bit more clearly. There is something holy and profound about both the life before and the life after the oak. Both are good, and both require different kinds of care. What I love about the story of the oak, both the gift and the loss of the oak, is that it reflects an image of a people who never stop seeking what God is up to next. People who are constantly curious about the Holy Spirit or what dance the Trinity will next do in this place. People who want to walk with Jesus knowing that the landscape can change with a lightning strike or an unexpected rain. This is one story I know. There are, of course, hundreds more. Stories of how the Trinity, in all the ways we understand it, is moving through and transforming your life. And so this is what I ask of you, St. Catherine's. Tell me your stories. Tell me the places where you hear the Holy Spirit whispering or see the Trinity dancing. Tell me your spirit-filled dreams that you have for this place and for your lives. And so we begin, right here on Trinity Sunday, ourselves learning a new dance, waiting and watching to see where God will next appear in new and unexpected ways. I can't wait to see where we go.